Hi, and welcome to video number 3 of the COVID crisis in your personal finances. I hope you've been enjoying these, and I know that today's is going to be very, very helpful. These are meant to be practical. This is not theory about finance. It's what can I do today? What action steps can I take that I need to get through this crisis? Some of you are feeling it deeply, some just a little bit, and some hardly at all right now. But in the weeks and months to come, unfortunately, there's likely to be more pain financially in addition to the health pain. There's going to be wealth pain. And so these are meant to prepare you. But you know what? Even if we're not going through a coronavirus crisis, the principles that I share with you that my wife and I learned and practiced, well, we still do, but especially the first 15 to 20 years we were married, living on very low income, these work. They work because they're right and they're true, and we've put them into practice, and we can verify that they are right. I remember when we were in college and didn't have a whole lot of money, and I realized that, hey, I have responsibilities. I'm married. We have one child. And I don't know that much about finances. So guess what I had to do? I need to get educated. I need to learn about finances. And so I began to read and devour everything that I could about finances, because if anybody needed to know how to stretch a dollar and make it work, I needed to. We needed to know what to do. There's a quote that says, "Formal education can make you a living, but self-education can make you a fortune." Well, we self-educated not to make a fortune. We self-educated on finances to survive. By the time I was 30 years old, I know that I had read over 30 books on personal finance. And eventually, that's what led me into the financial business for the last 20 plus years of my life. Because the things that I learned and practiced to survive, I learned were good practices to implement for all times. And I hope these are helpful to you. In the past 2 videos, we talked about the importance of praying daily about your finances. Not to stop giving in the midst of a crisis to God. Don't find the money there. Find it by being a good steward of the 90% or whatever is left over after you're a generous giver. And I talked about treating your family finances like a business. It is. Track every dollar that comes in, every dollar that goes out. Does it take time? Yes, it does, but not that much if you keep up with it, and it's worth it because you find the money. And I talked about all these steps, about ways to find the money. We're going to continue on in that vein today, the importance of that. But these are just good informational items that I'm going to share with you in the midst of this crisis right now that you really need to practice all the time. And I hope this will be helpful. So, always remember that one of the most important aspects of financial freedom and not having financial stress for now, for next year, and for the rest of your life is to make sure that you have an adequate emergency fund. If you need to sell some stuff to build up that fund, the first $100, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 that you have, because guess what? Emergencies happen. Stuff happens, and you need to get your hands on money, and the worst emergency fund ever is a credit card. That is not an emergency fund. And so that's what ends up being most people's, because they don't set aside money in an emergency fund. Right now in the midst of this crisis, but for all times, cash is king. You need to make sure that you have an adequate amount of money. You can kind of get through any storm if you have saved up for that rainy day, for that storm that will come. Because if it hasn't come to you through the COVID-19 crisis, believe me, it will come through another means. So always make sure that you have an adequate emergency fund. Some people that I read say you need to have at least 6 months of expenses. So if it takes you $3,000 a month to just pay your expenses, then you need 6 times that amount in cash. Is it going to earn a whole lot of interest for you? Absolutely not, but that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is to get you through a crisis. And to know that you can reach in and get that is very comforting. So even in the Bible, in the book of Proverbs and in different places, it talks about storing away things, not to just build it up, to worship it, but to have there for a period of time when it's going to be needed. And I've never met anyone that didn't have an emergency or didn't need an emergency fund built up at some point. So do that right now. If there are ways to reduce costs and you can still get by, start putting some of that into cash so it's there, because guess what? You may not have lost your job yet. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but your turn might come a month from now, or 3 months or 6 months from now, and your income is reduced and you're going to need that. So build up an emergency fund. It's just a good practice. The second thing is work on and create a budget that you will follow and live by. And even if you have to pull it out and track it and keep up with it every single day, certainly every week. But this is one that I just printed off the internet that's a free budget source. Again, you can just search for that. Free, simple family budget. And all kinds of things that you don't have to pay for that. It'll come up. And this one here just says at the top, you need to write out what income comes in a given month. Then you start looking at the expenses. Unfortunately, the list of income is short and the list of outgo is typically long. And so you look at things like mortgage, credit card, car loan, student loan, all these other loans that you have, and you put those down. And what is the amount that you need to pay? What is the minimum? And then you start looking at things like utilities, gas, oil, electricity, telephone, water and sewage, and all those kinds of things. And then insurance. We need to pay lots of types of insurance. Maybe it's a life insurance policy, auto, home, health, long-term care, and the list goes on, unfortunately. And then savings and investments, emergency fund, college fund, retirement fund. And then miscellaneous like groceries, childcare, vacation, entertainment, clothing, gas, commuting, out-of-pocket costs, other miscellaneous. And you just list those things. Now, what you want to make sure is that the outgo is less or at least even to the income. If not, you need to eliminate some things. You've got to shave some things down, and you need to keep up with this. You know, I know people who say, oh, okay, I've got $4,000 coming in, and I've added up all these expenses, and it's exactly even. But how do you know that that's actually what you are currently paying per month? It looks good on paper. The only way to know that for sure is that you need to have a tracking plan. So the budget and the tracking plan go hand in hand. I'm not here to promote any books or anything of my own or other people, but I do know that Dave Ramsey has a plan called Every Dollar. But you can look on the internet, and again, free tracking plan for budgets. Or you can just use a pen and paper. That's why I brought my notepad in here today to show you that this is work, this is business. You have a family business that takes in income and you need to track the outgo. And yeah, there's work to it. And all of us have the time and need to make the time to work on our family finances, and especially in a time of crisis, but really all the time. If you did it all the time, there really wouldn't be any crisis. So we need to be working on this. It's being a good steward, because my belief is that if you are a follower of Christ, every dollar that you've ever been entrusted with is a gift from God, and you are responsible to be a good steward of that money that comes in. That one day He's going to help hold us accountable for what did we do with what He gave to us. And so how can we know if we're being a responsible steward if we don't even know where our money goes? And folks, 9 out of 10 people in Canada and the United States couldn't tell me or somebody else exactly where their money goes. I'm looking for you to change your ways, to change this percentage and start minding your P's and Q's, minding your dollars and cents. So cash is king. Have a budget. Work the budget, not just for a month, for a year, and then 5 years, and then 10 years, and for the rest of your life. Work a budget. People don't like it because it seems straining, but they like the fact that they have money when they need it, and that's what it's there for. It's like guardrails on a bridge. It's there to keep you safe. So you need to work on your budget, have a good tracking plan, whether it's a fancy app on a computer or iPad, or whether it's just good old writing it down. There's something about writing it down and looking at it and reviewing it that just, it sinks in where that money is going. And number 4, today in this video, you need to understand and take advantage of the government stimulus for this emergency. If you're in the United States, they've put out this thing called the CARES Act. You need to find out what that means to you and to your family. Do you know that there will be thousands, tens of thousands of families that miss out on an opportunity where the government is trying to sustain you and keep you afloat? And in my strong opinion, it is not wrong to utilize that money. They know that people have been hurt and they're trying to help us through an emergency situation. And I don't depend on the government to just bail me out. But in a situation like this, there are things there that will impact you, that will help you financially, that is there for every citizen. If you live in Canada, I've already looked it up. And it's called the Canada's COVID-19 Economic Response Plan. If you just search for that, it will show you exactly what is there for your family, for your business, for your retirement funds, taxes, and all of that is affected, and there's no excuse not to keep up with that. That's part of being responsible and being a good steward. In the United States, it's called the CARES Act. And here's a paper that we're going to make available through your church and the folks that have made this video available to you. And it's called Retirement Changes to those that are under required minimum distributions. If you don't know what that is, it doesn't apply to you right now. But it's for people in retirement at a certain age. And this year, it's been waived. You don't have to take that out. Preparing your tax return is at a later date. Even the ability to contribute to it at a later date. Contributions to IRAs or Roth IRAs and that kind of thing. So your job is to keep up with this and to know what is there for your family, for your church, for your business, for whatever. And ignorance and not knowing isn't a good excuse, because we live in a world of information, and these things are missed out on by people all the time because they just didn't take the time to learn what they're all about. And you need to take the time to learn what they're all about and what it could mean to you and your family. And so another thing that I want to address is your retirement savings in general. A lot of people are asking because the stock market has taken a big hit. In March, there was a period where the stock market lost 30% in 22 days. It's the fastest and most rapid decline ever in the history of our stock market. And then in April, it came back some. In May, it continues to be very volatile and uncertain. Many people are predicting, but who knows? Many people are predicting that throughout the summer, things could get way worse before they get better. This is a time for you to manage your finances, and those retirement accounts are part of that. So what should I do in the midst of this? Don't make quick, knee-jerk, emotional decisions. That's not what you should do. But you need to, again, pay attention. And you need to do age-appropriate investing and decisions. You need to make sure that if you are younger and you have the ability to do so, this is a good time to put more in because you're buying on sale. If you're older, either 10 years from retirement or already in retirement, you need to find your financial advisor and see what they're recommending, because your time horizon is different and your investing philosophy should be different for a 60 and 70-year-old than a 20 and a 30-year-old. But this is a time to pay attention and to make sure that you get help. And there are opportunities to do, in the United States, Roths. That's tax-free money. Maybe you need to convert part of your IRA to a Roth. Again, I'm just talking generally here. Just saying, look into some of these things and see if there's an opportunity there for building up tax-free retirement income for the future. Now, I also want to tell you how important it is to engage accountability and to get help at a time like this. You need to become educated. And one of the things that you can do is the internet is full of all kinds of great resources that we can make available to you and let you know about. Here's a great book. It's written by a guy by the name of Pete Benson. And it's not my son, his name is Daniel Benson, but he didn't write this book. But it's been one of the most helpful books for me for years and years, and it's called 12 Stupid Mistakes People Make with Their Money and Smart Ways to Avoid Them. We all make stupid mistakes with our money, but we need to learn to avoid them. I'm not here to promote or sell any books, but here's a book that I took all those years, those first 20 years that I was learning, my wife and I, sacrificing, learning to live on little. We took all those books that we had read and literally thousands of hours of education and research to know how to be smart with money. And we condensed it into one book, and it's called From Failure to Financial Fitness. You can buy this on Amazon, I think for like $6 American money. And it literally has everything in there that I've talked about and much more, condensed in simple language, everything you need to know to be good at and successful at your personal finances. Again, it's a very quick book to read. It's $6, and I recommend that you get this, that you look at Dave Ramsey's books and other people's, Ron Blue and Joe Sangle, and just do some education. This is a time to become educated. It may be a time to find a financial coach or a financial advisor in your neighborhood, in your area, that somebody trusts, that can help you and guide you in a time like this. Read books. Increase your knowledge. Again, formal education can make you a living. Self-education can help you survive. Not just for now, but for the rest of your life. You need to do that. And accountability is very, very important. If for the first time you're starting a budget, a tracking plan, and all these other things, you may say to yourself, I'm not very disciplined. I need help. I need someone to keep me and make me accountable. I need somebody to hold my hand, to cheer me on, but also to spur me on when I need it. That's accountability. Find a budget buddy, or find somebody to help keep you accountable, that you don't spend money needlessly on things that really don't matter right now, that you are doing all of these things. Find somebody that you trust. And again, I think that it would be wise for you to find a financial counselor or advisor or coach or someone to guide you through this, to keep you on track. It's the same as anything in life. But wealth is one of those things that we generally need somebody to keep our feet to the fire, to make sure that we're minding those dollars and cents and keeping up with all. It's so easy to start. It's very difficult to keep going and to finish. Most people have started a budget. Almost every family in Canada and the United States, I bet, have started a budget. And the vast, vast majority of them are not using it today. Or, 6 months later, a year later, maybe even a few weeks later, it was gone. So, these are the things that you need to keep in mind. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. Now, God cares. God believes in you. I believe in you. I know these principles work because I've worked them now for over 40 years. It's nothing fancy. It's just doing it. It's not that there's anything really that probably you heard here in these 3 video series that you hadn't heard sometime in your life. But the key is not hearing it. The key is doing it. Information is good. And hopefully this has been good information. Information is good, but implementation is great. Did you get that? Implement it. Putting it into practice. Doing it. Not setting it on the shelf and saying, oh, that sounds good. Yeah, that's a good point. That's something we should do. It's doing it. It's action. It's work. It's continuing on. It's being disciplined, having accountability. God is cheering you on. I'm cheering you on. I know your family and friends, your church, your pastor is cheering you on to win in this situation. You are surrounded by people who care. And I want to leave this verse with you in conclusion. Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. What does it say? Trust in the Lord. Are you? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. Great verse, great promise. I hope, again, that you will make it through this because you applied yourself, you trusted in God, you took the principles of stewardship, and you put them into action. And to close this video series, I want to have a brief prayer with you. God, I pray for extra power, strength, help, wisdom, determination, and discipline for those that have viewed these 3 videos, that they put them into practice, that they be successful as stewards of yours because you love them very deeply. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. And God bless you.